One of the biggest animated series to ever hit pop culture was the X-Men show in the 90s, and unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, you may know that it's coming back as X-Men 97, complete with a line of action figures from Hasbro. I've made a video before about what I kind of hope to see in this return, things like I'd love to see, Cable reunited with his parents since they were both, such a big part of the show and was only hinted at. But what about Spider-Man? I mean, he had an animated series too, and it begs the question, could Spider-Man, the animated series, come back? Now, it's a very interesting show, mostly because of this guy, Ari Avid, who produced it. He was a toy maker. He was a president of Toy Biz. So the show was made by a toy executive and designed specifically to sell toys. Probably why I'm such a big fan of it. In fact, some of the toys were greenlit before the show was, which is why Hobgoblin shows up before Green Goblin in the series, because Hobgoblin had already been tooled for Wave 1, and they made sure the producers put lots of Hobgoblin episodes in. They also had issues with things like Madam Web, who Aviar was convinced would never sell as a toy until it did sell as a toy. So, yeah, there was a lot of toy interest that went into the show, which is why we got such an amazing toy line from Toy Biz. And even though I didn't collect it because it was that time in my life when I thought I was outgrowing toys, it basically inspired me to collect Marvel Legends Spider-Man today. It's kind of replacing that toy line that I never had as a kid with a more modern version. So, yeah, with Spider-Man meeting so many characters that made such great toys, including facing off against himself in what was sort of the finale, Spider Carnage, as well as meeting up with different Peter Parkers from across the Spider-Verse, which not only inspired more toys, but yeah, actually did inspire the creation of the Spider-Verse. Those episodes, crazy. That final episode even had a reunion with Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy, who had never appeared in the show before because he was in an alternate universe. Spider-Man even met Stan Lee in the finale. Now, X-Men had a proper finale. They got an ending, Graduation Day, where Xavier goes off to get healed by the Shi'ar and Magneto takes his place as trainer. Now, with Spider-Man, it's a little different because it was canceled midstream in order to make room for the new Spider-Man Unlimited show. And it left us kind of hanging, especially in terms of Mary Jane. Sort of the less said, the better, but they recreated the whole Green Goblin Brooklyn Bridge girlfriend scene from Spider-Man 121, but instead of Gwen Stacy, because Mary Jane was the main love interest on the show, Mary Jane was used, but instead of killing her, she was thrown into a portal through time and space, and the finale ended with Spider-Man and Madam Web off through the cosmos to find Mary Jane. And that was it. That was the ending. It ended on a cliffhanger. And now there was another season written, or at least thought about. So Spider-Man 98, not the first appearance of Spot there, but 1998, would be a great way to bring the show back and dig up those scripts for the unproduced next season. Now, there actually has been fans that have created Spider-Man 98 webcomics to explore the fact, because again, a lot of fans were frustrated by the finale and the fact that it ended on a cliffhanger and never really got a proper finish. Spider-Man never got reunited with Mary Jane. She was left lost in a portal in another dimension. So what would I like to see in a show beyond just a webcomic if they actually brought this back the way X-Men is? And I could see that very much happening with X-Men, on deck to become such a success. So after, rewatching the show, there's cool things like the fact that, again, a next season was written where Spider-Man was going to meet Jack the Ripper. Literally this Jack the Ripper, which is from X-Men, the animated series, but it was going to turn out to be Carnage, who also gets thrown into a time portal. And he was going to be, Carnage Jack the Ripper, and Spider-Man was going to have to fight him in Victorian England, and that's where he was going to find Mary Jane and bring her back to the present. Once there, he would have more adventures. So Spider-Man 98 should definitely kick off with that script, because that's what was planned back when they lost Mary Jane. It'd be great to then continue into the 90s, continuing some of those great Spider-Man. Okay, maybe the 90s weren't the greatest, but they did put the Clone Saga in the finale, so you're probably not going to see a full-blown Clone Saga or Maximum Clonage, since, again, it was more or less covered by the finale. Ben Reilly does show up in his Scarlet Spider suit, so, you can kind of check that off. As far as other upcoming, Spider-Man stories from around that time, One More Day, not a fan. I think a lot of people weren't a fan of this one. So adapting that for the animated series, maybe not the greatest idea. What I'd love to see, I know you're going to laugh at me, is more Spot. Now, I know some people think he was the worst, villain ever, but the portal, that he's actually responsible for the portal technology that Mary Jane gets lost in. So he's responsible for a huge amount of the show's plot. It would also be great to finally see Sandman. You might be like, wait a minute, Sandman was in the show. I remember Sandman. I even had an action figure of him. Well, actually, Sandman, the action figure, didn't come out till very, very late in the line. It was only available in this box set. That was basically because he never showed up in the show. The action figure was a repaint of Hydro Man, although without the water base, but the hands just became sand instead of water. And the reason that we never got Sandman in the show was because he was unavailable. He was tied up with what at the time was going to be the live-action Spider-Man movie that James Cameron was going to direct. You've probably heard of James Cameron. He's the famous director of Piranha 2, The Spawning, where that helicopter crashes in the water and just explodes without going underwater. Great scene. So yeah, the Spider-Man James Cameron film was going to feature Sandman, and the rights were locked up. But even though Sandman didn't appear on the show, a ton of Marvel Universe characters did, which is why it was so toyetic. And this is a big thing I'd love to continue, especially kind of with that sort of street-level 90s thing going on. I mean, yeah, sure, Spider-Man met Wolverine. Everybody meets Wolverine. But it'd be great to see, all those sort of street-level Marvel characters from the 90s. I mean, how cool would, that Spawn ripoff, Deathwatch? Was that his name? Not Deathwatch. Nightwatch. Deathwatch is from Mandalorian. Or the New Warriors. They'd be great. Darkhawk, one of my absolute favorite. I mean, he was in the Fantastic Four animated series, so he's made it into the Marvel animated universe. Sleepwalker, again, it'd be great to focus on those 90s characters since that's what the show was set in. Cardiac would be awesome, although he is owned by Eric Larson, or at least Eric gets royalties, which is why we don't have any action figures of Cardiac. And I'd like to see more Venom. I mean, Venom was obviously in the show, but he only was in 2 storylines. He was in the Alien costume and then the Carnage 2-parter. Even though Eddie Brock was in the show for more episodes than Venom, for all of the merchandise and how popular Venom is, he really wasn't in the show that much. And while he definitely gets overused in the comic books and in media, honestly, I felt he was underused. In fact, one of my favorite action figure variants, this all-clear one, which is from this issue, which is one of my absolute favorite Spider-Man issues, where they have their classic fight on a desert island, and at the end, Venom winds up thinking that Spider-Man is killed and leaves the island, or, stays there, thinking that, I've killed Spider-Man, now I can retire. So with, X-Men already greenlit for a second season, although the writer's strike may push that back a little bit, how long will it be before X-Men 97 spawns Spider-Man 98? And it'd be great to get more toys, too. Hey, maybe it's a great way to get that Darkhawk toy I've always wanted. So, yeah, I'd love to see this. I'm excited for X-Men, but I'd really be excited for Spider-Man 98. What would you like to see in a Spider-Man 98 show? Any villains that you felt got left on the floor or need to be included? Let me know in the comments below. Love to hear about it. Thanks, as always, for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.